Hey guys, my name is Josh, and today we're going to be talking about Ari Aster's newest film, Midsommar. Just as a quick disclaimer, I don't make videos like this at all. I don't review things. In a normal video of mine, right now, I would be telling you what sad song from 2013 I'm about to start singing. So, it's a little new, but let's fucking do it. So, Midsommar is a film about a group of people that go to Sweden for a ceremonial festival called Midsommar. But in actuality, the movie is about a failing relationship between two people. It's about loss. It's about vindication. And a bunch of other heavy shit that's just masked under what is a horror movie, although I don't think it's very horror in the general sense. There are definitely things in the movie that happen that are horrific. And gruesome and stuff, but in all actuality, it's more of like a drama, thriller, artsy goodness. But the film opens up with our lead, Danny, played by Florence Pugh. She does a stupid good performance in this. I don't have any other words to say other than it's great. You really don't understand until you see it. But the movie's set in motion. Danny goes through a tragedy that ends up putting her in this state of depression and loss, confusion. And pretty much because of this tragedy, Danny's boyfriend, Christian, played by Jack Rayner, reluctantly invites her to go on this trip with all of his buddies to Sweden to go to Midsommar, the festival itself. So they go ahead and they get there. They're introduced to some of the locals and everything just a little bit before they get to the main gathering. And first thing to do, we're taking some drugs. And that's when you get your first like hallucinogenic scene. The way that they do that is super good. It's super tasteful. The minimal amount of CGI that is used just looks great. Later in the movie, there's some other things that are happening, and they go ahead and use just straight practical effects for stuff. And I think that was a stupid good choice. The way that they even shoot everything later using the practical effects, kind of ballsy, because people like to like cut away from things, and he's like, "No, you're gonna look at it." But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. They get to the main part, and they're introduced to the whole family. We'll just go ahead and call them the family, and everybody's so nice, and it's so bright out, and everybody's just happy, and there's music playing, and they're just like, oh man, this is gonna be tight. And they go ahead and settle in, and everything's still really cool. You know, they wake up the next morning, they go ahead and gather for food. There's some like ceremony going on with a couple of the elders and stuff, and these little events just continue, but they just kind of escalate until it gets to a point where something happens and everybody's just like, man, fuck this. Or they should be like that, but some of them are like, we'll stay a little, we'll stay. So as the movie goes on, it starts to really test the last bits of Danny and Christian's relationship, which is, like I said earlier, pretty much what the movie is actually about. But there's just so many other things going on that it's easy for all these things to kind of get intertwined. But you start seeing, Danny panic and be less comfortable in the situation, and Christian, on the other hand, is just really doing his own thing, The one thing that I do enjoy about the movie is that they do a good job of making it not seem necessarily one-sided in the faults of the relationship. Like, there's a lot of things that, like, they both feel that they're semi-responsible in it not going well anymore. Like, Danny thinks that she's pretty much using Christian as, like, an emotional crutch. Christian is, trying to give as much of himself to the relationship as he can, but man, my dude just seems tired and kind of done. Not that it's warranted at all, because like there's some things that go on where you're like, that's not cool, dude. That's kind of pretty douchey. But Yeah, so I feel like the ceremonies essentially continue and escalate until the end of the movie. And without me just like straight up spoiling absolutely everything, I feel like there's not all that much that I can say about the story, other than it's told really well in certain circumstances. Some of the gripes that I do have, there are moments that are foreshadowed in the movie, and while some movies decide to take like a really subtle route, and it's like, oh man, that one line that somebody said in the beginning of the film pretty much was like the whole thing. While in this case, there are like straight up scenes where they're like, this is what is happening, but later. And they definitely hold on it, and you almost don't really have a choice but to go, well, that shit's gonna happen. You know what I mean? There's not a whole lot figuring it out as far as some of the things that are foreshadowed. But by the end of the movie, you will still probably be going, oh, what, did I see that the first time through, or was that something I should have known already? Or even just questioning actually what the movie's about. The movie's got a kind of long runtime for, I guess, most people. It's like 2.5 hours long. In my opinion, I think that it was paced great. The whole time, although, like I said, it's not a traditional horror movie. It's not like there's just people getting slaughtered every fucking 5 or 10 minutes. But it's the imagery, the world that they create, the characters, almost all of them, make you want to see what else is going on, even if there's not a whole lot of just like, you know what I mean? And it was nice to see. It was nice to see that there's like still movies coming out that aren't just a jump scare fest, haunted doll, super spooky time. Yeah, you know what I mean? So, overall, I really enjoyed the film. It's the only film that I A, saw by myself, but B, saw by myself twice, and that I've never went back to the theaters to watch a movie before. But man, I went ahead and left the movie just completely satisfied, while also feeling challenged. It's not like, if you go in watching the movie wanting to see a group of kids that go on vacation and then some shit happens, you might be okay with it, but it's not your typical, just like teen horror, kids getting killed off sort of vibe. If you go into it wanting something a little bit more that you need to kind of digest, I think you'll be pleased. With that being said, everybody is going to compare it to Hereditary. I watched Hereditary after the fact. Legitly, I left the theater, walked to Target, bought Hereditary, and then watched it like the next day. But I'm not going to go ahead and sit here and start making a pros and cons, compare and contrast super list over whether or not Midsommar or Hereditary is better. At least not right now. Maybe I'll do that eventually, but I'm not sure. But all in all, more films like Midsommar need to be made. If you like, I want to say if you like horror, you'll like it, as long as you like a lot of different horror and not necessarily just, wanting to see some naked kids in the wood get stabbed. But yeah, Midsommar out now. Fucking go see it.